to our APSE facilities, catering and cleaning online seminar, kindly sponsored today by Bid Food. I hope you're all staying safe and well in these really challenging times.
This really is just an overview of the state of the market surveys for catering and building cleaning 2021. The key findings, negatives and positives, and looking a bit at facing the future, and hopefully at the end just draw some key learning points. Catering services, service level agreements are actually been put in place now for longer terms, which is really good, really positive. I think that's consistent. Need to have certainty in a very fragmented sector, obviously. COVID-19 response, I think services have been very highly visible to the public, being there on the front line in a very, very, very high profile way since the pandemic started, and adopting and adapting as required to deliver for local people, really in the local, very, very visible in the local community, delivering for local people.
So all in all, by the end of the school year, we find that 1.1 percentage point increase in healthy weight prevalence from a base of 76%, and a 0.7 percentage point reduction in obesity prevalence from 10%. So this basically means before the policy was introduced, about 10% of children were obese, and after it was introduced, it might have been 9.3%. So is this a large effect? In absolute terms, it doesn't seem that large, but I suppose it's important to consider here that we are shifting weights of children at all, and other school-based interventions have shown that it is notoriously difficult to shift children's weights. It is something that is very resistant to policy. Other things that have been tried were sporting initiatives like the Daily Mile or nutritional information in school. And compared to all of these, the free meals are really doing quite an important job.
A word of warning, each and every local authority in the country have their own set of contract procedure rules, and they are not all the same. They differ quite markedly from one to the other. Many, and it's probably fair to say, increasingly, many include provisions that say if you want to vary a contract during its term, you can only do it in the same way as if it were subject to the public contracts regulations.
And I think the distressing thing is that sadly, when you walk into a supermarket and you find 3 chickens sold for £10, these are likely to have been grown quickly with hormones. And these are going to be affecting those people within our society who can least afford organically grown chicken or whatever, which will be 2 or 3 times the cost. And so there has to be some kind of government control and serious warning on it. But the minute we are able to publish, I'll be very, very happy to supply detail back to this group.
Local authorities came under increased pressure and demand when the country went into lockdown last March, but they've worked around the clock to ensure that their communities are protected not only from the pandemic, but the consequences of it too, especially with things like food insecurity. And this was, of course, an issue that predates coronavirus, but the pandemic has truly shone a light on existing and widening inequalities. Most recently, councils have been able to distribute funds to families via the COVID Winter Grant Scheme. That was a fund set up by the government in lieu of extending free school meals over the Christmas holidays last year, and to provide extra support up until March this year. But the problem is most authorities tell me that, they've already spent that money. So I'd be interested to know how your local authority has dealt with these funds and what you think of it too, and if you've managed to make it stretch to cover February.
We need to raise the profile of our people who are doing this job. They are frontline. They are removing, hopefully, that could cause problems, but they can't even see what they're removing. So the touch point cleaning has to be done in a specific way by people who are trained to do it correctly, so that all touch points, light switches, handles, flushes, taps, buttons on lifts, all of these contact points should be cleaned in a specific way using a specific product so that we're reducing the spread. In the cleaning world, risk assessments are available. However, I audit across the country and I work in the NHS religiously, and I've been based in a hospital for the last 3 months non-stop fighting the battle. And I know that across the country, I'm looking at risk assessments, and I'm not convinced that we've embedded sufficient detail around cleansing.
So if I want to summarize the impact of climate on an insect to transmit a potential disease, you tend to have this kind of theoretical curve that I show you on the top right there. If it's too cold for some diseases, nothing's going to happen. Vector's going to sleep or going to die. If it's too warm, same thing. And you might have an optimum at relatively high temperature. That's an example for a tropical disease here for malaria. But obviously, if you look at other diseases like blue tongue, that can affect the livestock sector in the UK, that curve may be shifted towards the left because it's adapted to a colder environment. So that shape basically is going to change depending on the disease, the vector you're looking at, and the region.
And the key to all this is appointing them a buddy to work alongside. That's usually my cleaner in charge. So it's a person in charge of the cleaners on site. And we have to have that relationship from day one, that the buddy is keen to work with the intern and vice versa. If you have that, everything is much, much easier. So once we've got that role and everyone's happy with what we're doing at the moment, they will then start working. And what that usually means is shadowing the cleaner in charge and just seeing what they're doing and doing basic tasks. So it could be dusting, damp wiping, cleaning, toilets possibly. And we assess their needs through the job coaches and what they can actually and physically do and what they can't do.
I would like to thank Bid Food for kindly sponsoring the event today, Councillor Shelley Powell for chairing the first session, and all our speakers for sharing their expertise and experience with us, and all of you for attending. So it's great to see regular faces and some new faces today.